Thanks for joining us today on Coastal Progressive and Rainbow Forum on Society Bites Radio. Today we will be speaking with Kevin Held and Jason T. Gaffney, and we're welcoming them back again for the third segment of the interviews that we're doing, and we're going to be talking about California comedy novellas that Jason T. Gaffney wrote with his father, and some of the acting that Kevin did in the audiobooks recorded for out-of-body audiobooks. Welcome, fellas, and so good to have you back again this week. You guys are tremendous.
Well, it's great.
Thank you for having us, Steve.
This has become such a nice little part of my week, coming and joining you every week.
Thank you.
You have to remember, though, that it's 3 hours earlier here in California.
That's right. And that's the early morning wake-up call, I guess.
Oh, yes, it is. Oh, it's Steve calling. Let's go.
So, because here we're on the East Coast, and you are out there in beautiful sunny LA, and I'm sure it's a interesting wake-up call to have. So listen, guys, let's talk about California comedy novellas. You have I'm interested to hear about these, and I understand that Jason, that you and your father worked on these together, and then Kevin came in and did some recording with you on Out of Body. So let's hear about that, your guys' experience and what you want to share with us on this.
Cool. So for everyone out there who doesn't know what my voice is, I'm Jason, and I co-wrote the California comedy novellas with my dad, Ed Gaffney. And the California comedy novellas are Creating Clark, A Match for Mike, and Fixing Frank. And basically, it's a series of same-sex romance novellas that basically my dad and I wrote because they were concepts for movies that we knew we couldn't afford as independent filmmakers to make, but we didn't want the stories to go untold. And there's characters who make appearances in all three books, and which kind of ties them together. But you can read any of them as a standalone. They're just more enjoyable, I think, if you read them all together, so you can see the little Easter eggs that we've hidden everywhere. And basically, what's going to happen in quarantine is I'm putting together and we're going to do audiobooks of each of the California comedy novellas with a handful of my actor friends and fellow actors I've worked with, kind of like a radio show. So basically, in a traditional audiobook, you have a narrator who reads the entire book and does all the characters' voices and all of that kind of stuff. And sometimes, every now and then, there's a book similar to the Out of Body audiobook, where you've got two narrators and they each read one person's point of view, if there's two main characters' point of view in a book. And so for the California comedy books, we're actually going to do the two narrators, and they're going to read their characters' roles, but we're bringing in a whole bunch of other actors to read all the voices of the dialogue of the other characters. So I'm really excited about that. And Kevin's actually going to be joining us, being one of the main characters in Creating Clark, and he'll make a return to his same character in Fixing Frank. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too.
Excellent. Go ahead, yeah.
And now to jump into Out of Body, basically, so my mom and I co-wrote a feature film together called Out of Body, which is a paranormal LGBTQ romantic comedy that takes place around Halloween. And because she is a New York Times bestselling author, she wanted to write the book version of the script Out of Body. And so she wrote the script, she wrote the book, and one of the things we wanted to do to help promote the movie and promote the just Out of Body in general was to do an audiobook recording of it. And so she reached out to Blackstone Audio and said, hey, are you interested in recording the audiobook version of my book Out of Body, which is becoming a film. And she said, I would love to have Jason and Kevin read the two main characters. And Blackstone was like, fantastic, having the leads of the movie read the audiobook, and basically the audiobook helps support the film and promote it and everything. And so that was a lot of fun to do as well.
Excellent. The book, when I remember, I think last week you told us that when you had your house decorated to film Out of Body, it was decorated for Halloween for quite a few months. I'm hoping, is that decoration down now?
Yes. Thankfully, that decoration is down now. It's now decorated for Marriage of Inconvenience, the series, the upcoming series for Deku. So it's a little boho chic tragic, but it's but definitely we've got the paper bats have been taken off the wall. The ghosts that I've hung up, they're all in a box, and now I only take them out when it's actually Halloween. So I'm very happy about that.
Just for the record, though, I'm sorry. For the record, I still don't know what boho chic is. That's fine. I don't need to know.
always new words, always new definitions coming along. So that's great. Can you share with us? Do you have any other your audiobooks here? You mentioned a little bit about what you're working on. Do you have any other thoughts on upcoming series you might be doing or anything? Or what would you look for if you're looking to do audiobooks? What would you look for if you were doing more, putting more together?
Well, I'm a huge fan of radio shows in general. I love audiobooks, and there's a couple audiobook readers who I just adore because they're able to give very specific voices to each of the characters. And for those of you out there who don't know, I'm actually half deaf, so hearing has never been a strength of mine. So I'm always working kind of overtime to hear stuff and put the pieces together. And so listening to an audiobook can be challenging if the reader does the characters with all a very similar voice, because then I don't know who's talking and what's happening in the story. And so I love when audiobooks are done kind of radio show style, because it's like, oh yes, it's the woman with the high-pitched squeaky voice, or oh, it's the guy with the high-pitched squeaky voice, or the woman with the deep sultry B. Arthur voice. Like I know what character's talking. And so my hope is that after doing these three audiobooks, that maybe it'll encourage more people to do it in a similar way, because it's also really wonderful when you can get a whole bunch of actors work and get more people involved and all of that stuff. So that's kind of where that stemmed from, that kind of sense of like, it makes the story easier for the audience to hear, and also gives a chance for a whole bunch of actors to get involved that otherwise would be just sitting at home twiddling their thumbs.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That is all. That's all we do.
It's true. I let the cat out of the bag. All actors, all we do is just sit at home twiddling our thumbs.
Man, some Hollywood secrets here.
Yeah.
How do you set up a little studio where you record or something there, and is that how you go about this? And the people come at certain times to record, or do you do it remotely, or how do you do that?
Well, normally when Kevin and I did the audiobook for Out of Body, we actually went to a professional recording studio, and we were in different booths, and we were hearing each other via headphones and stuff. But and under different circumstances, I would be having the actors come to my kind of office studio setup, the local ones, and doing it in person. but because of COVID, it's not safe to do that. So everyone's setting up their own little personal recording studios at home, where they will set up the mics that we're going to be sending them if they don't have their own setup, and setting up a little booth, and so we'll be doing it kind of via a Skype like program online. I think it's called Zencaster, and so that's going to be a challenge, but also really fun.
Yeah, and it's a lot of people going back into their closets for these gay stories.
Yeah,
figuratively or literally, and literally.
But only to record. Yeah.
Only to record. That's good. That's good.
You'll enjoy this. When I was talking with a friend of mine, a future family member of mine, who does sound stuff, he basically said, for the folks who don't have a home studio or place set up that's designed to have a kind of dead sound, and for listeners out there that may not know, like dead sound or dead space is like when you don't hear echo or reverb. And I'm saying this with very little knowledge. He basically said what you want them to do is to bring a bunch of pillows next to them and to put a blanket over them and their mic, so that the sound is as quiet and as possible, and so you just hear their voice. So I just have this image of several people who are going to basically be huddled up in a closet with a blanket over their head and a mic, as if they're telling a very, very scandalous secret.
Mm-hmm.
The image, I'll tell you something funny. The image came back in my mind of one of the trips that we had. We used to do, we still do tours. And one of the tours we did, it was a mixed LGBT group. And we had, these are all young men, and because they were so noisy and everything, their roommates had told them to get out of the room until they calmed down. So at that night, they had put a blanket. They were sitting around on the floor, and it was in my room because I had the largest room, and they were in my room. And I said, "Now be quiet, I have to sleep." And they were on the floor, so 5 of them sitting with a blanket over them and their pillows, and the flashlight turned on. They were telling ghost stories and stuff. I never have forgot that. That happened in Santa Fe, New Mexico, when we were building a resort there. Yeah, that's exactly what comes back to mind. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of that
such a great visual.
Now that we have spent all of this time with masks on our face, I feel like I'm suffocation proof.
Yeah.
So it won't be too bad.
They have that's interesting, because I didn't really know how they did these novellas and how they recorded and everything, and so their individuals can do this now on their own. Then I guess basically, and then send the recordings in, or they edit them in somehow into the recordings, I guess, and that's where they put the characters together and everything in the books and everything that goes through.
Yep.
Yeah, basically, basically it's like putting together a movie. You just edit it together.
Exactly. And the only difference is there's no video in these, and you still have the sound probably and everything.
Right.
Yes, my experience of recording in the professional studio was really amazing, because for The Bright Side with Kevin and Jason, our podcast, I do the editing for that, and I'm not a professional editor. But it was so interesting to see how a person who can really get in there can cut and within a sentence. So if you make a small mistake, you can start sometimes in the middle of a sentence, going back again, and so being able to do that, I have huge respect for the technicians who can do that. Really, artists who can get in there with they're like surgeons, like a scalpel, and make it sound incredible. Which is great, because as an actor, whenever you make a mistake, you just need someone there to make up for it.